when a player gets to 35, 36, that's when they start doing it. They slow the game down so much that I don't have to beat you. That pass in between the two of you is more dangerous than me trying to beat you and get a crossing and impacting the game that way. He thinks so much, and it's something that we use a lot in the word football intelligence. There is no better young player in world football for any young players wanting to watch and learn the game and be a top player than watching Lamine Yamal.
This Barcelona side, I don't remember a team that played this way. I remember teams that were very good. I remember Barcelona teams, Real Madrid teams, Inter Milan teams that were very good, did it in a different way. I don't remember a team that did it in this way. They do leave themselves open at the back. Dortmund had a ton of chances despite the scoreline. But they get their money's worth. They do play open, but that means that they commit more numbers forward and ask you to solve the equation of, hey, how are you going to deal with all these overloads and guys running and all this quality that they throw at you? Yamal, for me, should be in the conversation of one of the best players in the world at the moment. Throw the stats out. I don't want to know how many goals somebody scored. I want to know, when you watch the game of football, how does this kid affect the game?
Yeah.
This kid is unbelievable. Not only his defensive work, when he has the football, reading the game, the rhythm that he plays with. He knows when to go fast, when to slow down. He's playing like a vet, and then he has all the tools to back it up as well. So, again, I thought Aston Villa and Borussia Dortmund, nowhere near the pace.
And can I add something to the Lamine Yamal conversation? The way that he does it, week in, week out, now in the Champions League, in the knockout stage, he understands the moment and he meets it. But he has like this nonchalance about him, as if he's playing in the backyard of a pickup game with his boys. And that's the mentality aspect. He's having fun. He's free to express himself. And I really like that from such a young kid that might succumb to the pressure, but he never does.
It's like he does understand the weight of the moment, but plays like he doesn't understand it.
Well, he does.
He has so much enjoyment, doesn't he?
We had the pleasure of listening to his interview a few weeks ago, and he talks about now he understands that he's not the same young kid anymore that can walk down the street and go to the shop. So he knows the responsibility of what he's doing on the football pitch, not just for Barcelona, but also for Spain. And now that he has to treat himself a different way and he has to mature. I love the celebration. And I think for me, the freedom that he's got, I want any of the youngsters watching, if you want to be a top player, watch Lamine Yamal. Like, I grew up in a generation when I just said Lamine Yamal.
Ah, okay.
Lamine, just leave me alone. South London, leave me alone. Anyway,
why don't you just say Yamal?
Yamal. It's a serious message to any of the young kids watching. Watch Lamine Yamal. When you watch how he plays the game, look at the decisions he's making. As Grella likes to say, watch with your eyes. Forget the stats and numbers. He plays beyond his years show. He thinks about it. And that's one thing he said in his interview for such a young man to say, I think about the game. I think about before I get the ball, what I'm going to do. When he's making these passes, I'm looking at him thinking, that's something that when a player gets to 35, 36, that's when they start doing it. They slow the game down so much that I don't have to beat you. That pass in between the two of you is more dangerous than me trying to beat you and get a crossing and impacting the game that way. He thinks so much, and it's something that we use a lot in the word football intelligence. There is no better young player in world football for any young players wanting to watch and learn the game and be a top player than watching Lamine Yamal.
It was very intense, Nigel, when you look down at your single like that. I've never seen you do that before.
Because young players are watching right now.
To the rest of the world.
Do you know what it is? Because he's another one that made fun of me before when I've ever compared players to other players. When Nicholas Jackson, and I said, he reminds me of elements of Didier Drogba. Oh, no, you're saying he's Drogba. I said, no. In England, we were given players to look and model our games on and learn how they play the game and study. I don't know how they coach in America, but that's something that happens quite a lot in other nations where they give you someone a reference point of the characteristics that you have to watch it. So for any young budding wingers...
Who was yours?
I had to watch a lot of midfielders. Makelele for his ball-winning ability. You get the usual Stevie Gerrard, Roy Keane, Patrick Vieira in dominating the game. So
Roy Keane was definitely there with the two footers you were putting him back.
Makelele as well, Stevie Gerrard. But no,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Listen, and the thing is that it's inevitable to draw comparisons with Lamine Yamal and Messi, but it's almost like he's not afraid to live in Messi's shadow, especially they're playing a similar position. But at his age, Messi wasn't dominating.
He's got better numbers
games,
than Messi.
Maybe gravitating in matches as much as Lamine Yamal does, and your jaw drops because you see the way how he plays with so much maturity, and how he's able to.
But it's a different
the dynamic in games. For sure it is. But you know, and I don't want to compare the two, and inevitably I'm landing at this comparison. But it's unbelievable that this kid is so young and he's able to put teams away by himself like that with such ease.
Messi was more individual. Lamine is playing part of a team dynamic with still that great ability to take control of games. Like you said, to have individual moments himself, while Messi at the time, it was all about Messi. It was all Messi. Everyone else was fit around the pitch to make Messi successful.
Well,
yeah, but at his peak, though. At his peak, not at the start.
With the collective.
Not at the start, no. But still, even at the start, there were certain elements. When you have some conversations with some players, that they'll tell you certain things were done. No, and there's nothing wrong with that, because Messi is an absolute phenomenal talent. But how Lamine is doing it is completely different, and I think we're just lucky to watch this player doing what he's doing.
Grella, are they the favourites in the Champions League? We saw, obviously, Arsenal put in a great performance yesterday against Real Madrid. Opta had them last night as the new favourites. Who do you have now at this moment in time?
It's been close the whole year. We don't really know who to call, who to say is the favourite. For me, I don't see another team playing that type of football. The only reason why we ever discounted them was because of how open they are and how high the line is and how risky they play the game. So obviously, being traditional analysts and having watched so many games of football, you look at that and you go, whoa, that's a red flag for us. That's a red flag for someone who's watched football for the last 20, 30, 40 years. But this is a different team. We haven't seen this team. This is a team that does this really, really well. So right now, for me, Barcelona are the favorites. They have the most tools. They have the most quality. And again, they do leave themselves exposed, but they get it on the other end of the pitch. So they make you pay on the other end of the pitch big time.
But
so
they don't suffer that much with that high line. They know how to resolve issues. They know how to resolve issues.
Borussia Dortmund had way too many chances today.
Forget all that.
Way too
but
many
they know how to
chances
withstand
today.
that.
Nico.
How many goals did they end up scoring? And that was maybe more on Dortmund than Barcelona, right? Like Girassi should have had that
basically,
shot.
they say...
Look against Madrid. They play that high line against no matter who it is.
Exactly.
And they're able to come out on the winning side. You suffer a little bit, but understanding that, like you said, on the other side, you get the goals to create that cushion, but it hasn't been their Achilles heel, is what I'm saying.
Out of all the teams we've seen, you pick Barcelona as the favourite to win it now. Out of everything we've seen so far in this first half, you said Barcelona the best team to win it.
Absolutely.
What about Paris Saint-Germain? You were just drooling over Paris Saint-Germain.
Paris Saint-Germain, for me, are good. They've figured out a lot of things. Still a young team. But I don't think they defend as well as some of the other teams.
Probably a younger team.
I don't think they defend as some of the other teams, and I also don't think that they have the center forward piece that Barcelona have.
From what we've seen so far, all those teams, I would honestly say I would be worried if you're paying. I'll put PSG ahead of Barcelona.
PSG, listen, it's close.
If Barcelona play the way they play, when you look at the weapons that PSG have, PSG would win that game.
No, I think you're wrong.
With that front three that they've got.
I think it's very clear that Barcelona had better front three.
Christian Kvaratskhelia.
I think it's obvious conversation.
Doué.
So you're saying PSG
if Barcelona play that high line that he talks about, that high suicide line, PSG in their midfield that they've got, where they can keep the ball, but PSG...
Hold on. The front three of PSG is better than the front three of Barcelona?
It's not about the front three, which is better.
No way.
In a game of football, in that team dynamic with how they set up, PSG, I feel, are the better team set up and the better team defensively who will cause Barcelona more problems.
We'll only know the answer to this debate if they meet in the final. I would love to see that final. And I can't speak in absolute terms. PSG will beat Barcelona in a final. Barcelona will beat PSG in a final. Because they have to go play. It would be a beautiful game of football, because just like you talk about the how you talk about the dynamic of the midfield in PSG and the way they keep the ball. Have you seen the way that Frankie de Jong has grown and Pedri has grown and Gavi has grown? It would be such a glorious matchup of the two best teams in the world at the moment. I would love to see that final. Because it's anybody's final.
We don't know, but for me, we're talking about the weapons.
The favourites.
We're talking about, at Barcelona, 3 guys that could be Ballon d'Or winners. Right now, today, we just spent 15 minutes on Lamine Yamal and how he's maybe one of the best players we've seen since Messi, right? Lewandowski, are we going to sit here and talk about Lewandowski and what he does and what he brings to the table? For me, PSG don't have the center forward. Dembele played as a center forward today. He moves all over the field, which creates numbers in different situations in the field. But for me, when I look at a team that's going to win the Champions League, I look at the most complete team. The front three of Barcelona are more complete complete than the front three of PSG. Not to take anything away from PSG. Also, we're splitting hairs here. I'm not saying that Barcelona is the overwhelming favorite.
It's a great conversation, but again, like I said, from just a team like Mike, I'll say PSG. But one thing we do know is, apparently, according to Grella, Poppy, Aston Villa have no chance in the second leg.
Zero chance. Zero. They had zero chance before the first leg.
It's a mountain to climb. That third goal killed it. If it was 2-1, I would say they have a real good chance. But
that performance from Aston Villa, that's the one you go back and spend time with your family because you're so shaken by it. 160 passes to 800 passes. That's the one you got to go back and
wait, how many?
Get some rest.
How many? Grella was counting the passes. 160.
They were so far from the truth, it's not even close.